Hi there! Why do people think that Applied Digital is about to explode again? The stock price to go back to $21. And this is likely to happen because they've seen a new deal with a new investor that is willing to invest about $5 billion in this company to provide the funds. And as the market cap of this company is about 1.1 billion and their investments is around 5 billion, they see future growth ahead. Because once they build their project, the value of that project is around 5 billion, the future revenue is likely to increase, more than double. And when that happens, also the market cap is likely to go up. So this is the thesis about this company. That's why there is a high focus on this stock. Many people think that they may have another return like this, over 15,000%, 15x, quite even more than that. So let's analyze this company and see its future potential. First, to analyze this company, to predict its future, you have to understand what they do. So, Applied Digital develops, builds, and operates data centers and cloud infrastructure. In other words, they build the campuses with data centers and then they rent those centers. And as there is high demand for data centers and energy, for instance, let me show you, Meta is about to invest between 60 and 65 billion in capital expenditures this year 2025. Only one company. Then Amazon, their capex to reach 100 billion in 2025. Microsoft to spend 80 billion on AI data centers. So when you see this high demand, huge demand from big, large hyperscalers, this company is taking advantage. They already said the management comments you see here, a rapid expansion of hyperscaler data centers, driven by growing demand for AI capabilities. And according to a recent report from Morgan Stanley, there is a shortfall, could be a shortfall of approximately 36 gigawatt in power availability for US data centers by 2028. And their vision is to build and operate multiple high-performance computing data centers. And they want to take advantage of this short in supply and come up with their own data centers, which can offer electricity, power supply, and also the hardware needed for AI capabilities. And that's why many investors see huge potential with this company. Now, you also have to ask yourself if they have the funds to invest more in this project, to take advantage of this huge demand. Because if you look at their market cap, is only 1 billion. So they can raise a lot of money from the public market. If they issue more shares, they can raise barely 1 billion. Because you'll have more dilution. And that's why they signed an agreement, contract with another investor, a fund more exactly, of about 5 billion. As they are about to get 5 billion to invest in data centers. And once they complete their campus of data centers, their revenue will go up. You look over the years, over the last 3 years, the revenue has started to increase from 8 million to 55 million to 165 million. And once they have this capacity available from one campus of data centers, the revenue will go even higher. Because right now they are making, last year they made 165 million. And once they have this campus available, they can increase their revenue even more. Of course, Applied Digital will still own 85% ownership stake in those future campuses you see here. Now, you also have to understand how they make money. Because as I said, for the last year, they made $167 million. And they have two segments. data center, hosting, and cloud services. Data center hosting. They provide a space to their customers who locate their hardware within their facility. So it's more like renting their facility, their space. And the customers come with the hardware. Then they have another segment called cloud services. Here, they manage their cloud infrastructure and offer services to their customers. In other words, if a customer wants to use their infrastructure, they pay a fee and they can use it. And you can see here their segments based on their revenue for the last 6 months and 3 months. You can see that data center hosting has a higher revenue than cloud services, and overall, the revenue for the last 6 months was about 124 million. So for this year, the revenue may reach 250 million. Compared to the last year, from 165 million to 250 million, it's an increase, quite high, a high growth rate. But the biggest growth rate will come from the next facility. Here, this announcement, this big deal of around 5 billion. And once they complete this facility, the revenue will skyrocket, and so the stock price. Right? Now, you also have to look if they are able to make some profits for those two segments. And as you can see, for the data center segment, for the last 3 months and 6 months, they were able to deliver some operating profits, and that's good. So this is quite important to rent that space. And for cloud services, they reported a loss. And here they have to improve this segment, the cloud infrastructure services. Because for the moment, they are profitable only from data center hosting. So they have to build up their capacity and make more money. Now, you also have to look at their balance sheet. If they have some debt, see how the revenue has increased over the last 6 months, almost doubled, and also 3 months. You have to understand their assets. They have some cash, close to 300 million, but also you can see here a long-term debt of about 468 million, so you can forget about the cash. And you see that they have quite a lot of lease liabilities. This means the rent they pay. For the moment, they don't have their own facility. That's why they announced that big deal of 5 billion. And once they finalize that project, they can increase their revenue. Now, when you look at this company, you see that the revenue is about, for the last 6 months, 124 million, but their losses were quite high, over 142 million. And they have increased compared to the last year. And you see a higher growth rate in their losses than their revenue. And this is bad, because if their losses grow higher than the revenue, in the long term, this is not sustainable. And you have to be very careful. And another risk is, yes, they announced this big project, but again, you have to ask yourself, what's their earnings? What will their earnings look like in the future? Will they be able to deliver some profits? Because if they don't make any profits, then the growth rate in revenue will have no impact on the stock price. I mean, you might see an increase. People, investors, the market will hope that they'll become profitable. But over the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, if they don't deliver a profit, that will be bad for shareholders. Another thing you have to be aware and pay close attention is this, the shares outstanding. You see from 2023, the number of shares was around 100 million. And then, close to the day, the number has doubled, 200 million. And this is quite bad, because the value of their project, of this business, as long as they keep the number of shares, the value is lower, is divided by half. And that's why you have to be very careful with this company. Yes, the demand is there, They took advantage. They were quite lucky to find an investor to offer $5 billion to build their facility. But you also have to think about their future profits, if they're able to make some profits, and how much. That's the question you should ask yourself. How much money can make in the future? How much profits they can deliver? Because that's the key. If you want to be profitable with this investment. If they don't deliver any profits, you'll have more dilution because they'll need more money to fund their operations, to invest in their project, and overall, the shareholders, normal investors like us, will suffer a lot. Especially those people who bought at the highest peak when the stock price was around $25. And now, they have a decline over 80%. So, if you put a gun to my head, what price would I pay for this stock? Well, the answer for this question is available only for members. So, if you want to know what price would I pay for this company, you can join my membership. So that's it for this video, and if you have other questions, please let me know in the comments.